What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Top Rope List edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. Today we are going to break down our favorite Royal Rumble moments of all time, the best and the greatest of how many years at this point? It was 88 is the beginning of that one.
5?
A lot of years and many matches and hundreds upon hundreds of people that have been in the matches and crazy moments all around. So we got a lot we got to be sifting through for our lists. And if you don't know who we are and who, is going to be saying our favorites and stuff, I'm Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And Robert E. Felice.
Hello.
And of course, as we tell you our top 10 favorites, one by one as we go along here, we also want to know your top 10 list. So drop your thoughts in the comments section below. While you're doing that on YouTube, then click on all the happy little buttons so you can see that help us out, like the like button and the share button. Double check that you are subscribed to ring that notification bell, because we got a couple more pay-per-views coming up pretty soon. And we'll, of course, be going live for our post show and doing the webcam thing that we've been doing. It seems like we've worked out that system pretty well, so I'm going to keep that going forward. And, you got super chats and stuff going on there, so by all means, join us on that every time that you can. Also, click on the join button that you can see there. Get access to the same stuff as the Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/smarkoutmoment, you'll see the Pick Your Poison tier, the Darkcast tier, even the $1 a month tier. All that stuff is the same over on the channel membership on YouTube. The only benefit is on the YouTube, the side of it, you get the video portion of it. So that's what I usually try to recommend more. If you also want to help us out on the monetary side of things through the thanks button, that is fantastic. And Redbubble and TeePublic is where you can pick up merchandise. So keep all that stuff in mind. Also, double check that you are in our Discord server. And the link should be fine now. I do have a new link up there compared to what it was before. But this one, hopefully, fingers crossed, will not expire. I had set the other one to not expire, and it did anyway. So I don't know what happened there. But discord.gg/ all the little letters and numbers that you can see on there. If you're not on the video stream right now, you're on the audio only stuff like Spotify and all, just go to smarkoutmoment.com. Check on the right hand side. You'll see the join our Discord server thing. It's pretty easy to find that over there. But let's get into this top rope list thing. Now, of course, we have to specify with any kind of favorites list. This is completely subjective of our favorites, and we're not going to be doing the debate style one for this, where we do the more Mount Rushmore, consensus agreement thing. Some top rope lists lend themselves to that when we start saying, the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. Then we can kind of debate, hey, Gunther deserves to be up there because he's beaten a lot of people and he's held it longer. Oh, hey, I like this one better, blah, blah, blah. When we're getting into favorites, we kind of can't tell somebody that they like something more. Yeah, I'm not going to be like, hey, Rob, you liked Edge's return better than the way that he and Christian stared off each other. And I'm not going to, tell Callum that he doesn't like the eliminations from this Royal Rumble compared to the other one or whatever. But we're probably going to have some crossover things here. So one other thing that I have to mention, if you've never checked out the Top Rope List before, is that we've got our little rest hold kind of thing that we've got going on, where if somebody mentions, let's say that they have, for their number 10, because we go bottom to top, number 10, if we've got like, I don't know, Matt Stryker going, you never know at number 10, and somebody else has that at number 4, so it's pretty high up, then they might say, yeah, put a hold on that one, and come back to that a little bit later, discuss it higher towards the top. And if somebody doesn't have anything on the list at all, then they're free to just talk about it right then, and it'll make more sense as we go along here. It's actually pretty simple. But keep in mind, we do want to know your takes on our takes as well. So while we give our thoughts and stuff, let us know if you think that we're absolutely crazy, or if you go, man, I would have put that at number 3 instead of number 1, whatever it might be. So do either of you guys want to start off? You want me to start off at number 10?
I'll start off with number 10, because my number 10 is going to be something that none of you have. And I'm going to preface this by saying it's not even a great Royal Rumble, but when I think of the history of Royal Rumble, I just appreciate the realism of this, and that's Yokozuna is the most realistic Royal Rumble winner of all time. You can't tell me that a guy who's 600 pounds comes into the Royal Rumble and everybody's just like, oh yeah, we'll get him out. He comes in, he dominates, he eliminates Randy Savage from the floor, and he wins, and he goes on to win the world title. They fucked that up in 5 minutes, but I really enjoy that there's at least that one example for all the tropes of jump on the big guy. There's the one example of, yeah, Yokozuna, of course he won. He's 600 pounds and he came in at number 27. You think he's going to lose?
All the examples of jump on the big guy are set from, if you don't, Yoko will throw you from the floor. Yeah. I don't have that on my list. And one of the main reasons why is because it's one of my least favorite things when it comes to Randy Savage trying to go for a pinfall, because it's awkward. So it makes Savage look dumb in a way. Actually, was that the same Royal Rumble that he technically eliminated himself and then they pretended like he didn't?
No, that was 92.
Okay, I knew that it was like Savage had made another mistake in the meantime.
Because they flip flop whether or not you can eliminate yourself from a Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I mean, if it's Mil Mascaras, then no yob, and then it counts.
Like, if it's Andre, yeah, he did. But if it's Savage and we need you for other things, no, you didn't.
Right, yeah. So I do appreciate the moment for Yoko's win of him just being like the new big dude, and we're going to set him up really, really well by having him win the Royal Rumble. And I like that number 27 spot doing that. It's been so many years since we've had number 27 win. They should do it again.
They haven't done it since like Austin in 01. Like it's been a long, long, long time.
It's weird to think that we've had way more number 1 and number 30s than not another number 27. But I don't have that on my list. Do you have that on yours, Cal?
No, very much not. I think it's it's one of the silliest spots in Rumble history is Randy Savage getting eliminated from the floor after attempting to pin a guy in a Royal Rumble match.
Yeah, but are you going to argue with the 600-pound man winning a battle royal?
No, I'm going to argue with the guy jumping on top of him and trying to pin him to try and win a match where you throw him over the top rope.
That is fair.
What do you have for your number 10, Callum?
One that I'm pretty certain that neither of you will have as well. Going to the Royal Rumble from 2002 for this one, which is the Hurricane tries to choke slam Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H.
That is tremendous.
This, I think, is my favorite funny spot in Rumble history. It's just they do through the 2002 Rumble, for those that haven't seen it or haven't seen it recently. They do the recreation of the Stone Cold 97 spot where he just comes in, cleans house, eliminates loads of people really quickly. He's like sitting on the turnbuckle waiting for people to come out so he can beat the crap out of them and throw them out. Triple H makes his big return after his really long-term quadricep injury. He comes out, does his full entrance and gets into it with Austin. And then I believe the very next guy to come out is the Hurricane. I can't remember if the exact order around. I know there's some other people involved at this point in time that were just thrown out immediately as well. But the Hurricane comes out, and this is he's only been the Hurricane for a few months at this point, I think. So he's still very much like established as a comedy guy, but not super established as a character yet. So he just comes out, confronts Triple H and Stone Cold. I think he's still even wearing his cape at this point. And he just goes, he grabs them with a goozle on both of them. They both just stare at him. They stare at each other. He looks at both of them. His eyes get very worried and big and all terrified. And they throw him over the top with his cape just flying over his head as he goes over. And yeah, it's one of those like, okay, you obviously are going to make no impact to this Rumble. You've got no chance of winning, but you made yourself memorable. So I really enjoyed that.
Not on my list, but it's inspired me already to potentially expand my list. And I don't know if I'm going to do this on a Darkcast or whatever, but I might end up creating a separate list of like my top 10 Royal Rumble eliminators, my top 10 favorite funny moments, kind of a thing. And that's definitely a funny moment on there. There's so many funny moments in the Royal Rumbles that, like, after having so many of them, it's hard to remember those. I didn't remember that one off the top of my head, and I did this basically off the top of my head, but that's definitely a great moment. Anytime Hurricane's in the Royal Rumble, it's been funny.
It hasn't been in many. Yeah, he hasn't been in many, I don't think.
I think the most recent one was like 3 years ago or so.
Oh yeah, in the guest spot role. But I think that I might be wrong. I think this was his only Royal Rumble as a full-time person before he became Gregory Helms. I think this might be his only Rumble as the Hurricane when he was full-time.
Let's see here. I might have that stat somewhere in my.
I can't remember him in the 2003 one, or it definitely wasn't in 2004 because we watched that recently. He wasn't in it. And then 2005.
He's already doing the turn. Oh no.
Oh, 2006. He's Gregory Helms. 2005. I think that he's injured at that point, so I don't think he'd be in.
So he's only been in 6 Royal Rumbles. He's been in 02, 04, 05.
Oh, it wasn't 04. I must have forgotten.
04, he lasted 19 seconds.
Oh, okay. That's
right. So 02, 04, 05, 07, and then 2018, and then 2021. He has a grand total of, over the course of 6 Royal Rumbles, a grand total of 10 minutes and 7 seconds.
That's better than I expected.
Yeah, it's not the worst on the list.
That means in one Rumble he lasted more than a minute. So
he his longest time was 6 minutes and 50 seconds in 07. That's probably like when he was like a cruiserweight champion or something.
Yeah, that was Gregory Helms. And that was Gregory Helms. Yeah.
He was a little more serious at that point.
Yeah, I have them all merged. It's just Hurricane Helms on there. No need to separate them the same as Kane and Isaac Yankem and all. You guys might have this on your list, but my number 10 is Maven eliminating The Undertaker.
Nope, thought about it though.
No, I did put that one on, but it's from the same Rumble, so.
Yeah, 2002. It's an awesome moment for multiple different reasons. And then there's also 2 things that I don't like about it. That's why I have it low enough to be number 10. It's great for the surprise factor. You know, I mean, who expected Undertaker? I wasn't even watching at that time, but like I certainly would never have expected Undertaker to get eliminated by somebody like Maven. Tough Enough needed some kind of legitimacy, and that's a cool way to like, hey, the Tough Enough guy eliminated the Undertaker of all people. That's pretty awesome. And it's just a great moment as far as like anything can happen in the Royal Rumble. Bad part about it is that they track then afterward. Undertaker completely buries the shit out of Maven and just, destroys him after that. But
that's probably the reason why I didn't want to include it on this list, even though the moment of him eliminating the Undertaker is cool. It's both the fact that he was completely just destroyed and almost had liberties taken with him because he had a exposed chair shot to the head and all this other stuff involved. It was
paying his dues, sir.
Yeah.
Those chair shots. Now, this is the type of thing that I say, like, there's the caveat to it. I don't like that I know now how bad those chair shots are.
Yeah.
Because if you pretend like they're fine, that's so cool. But then, of course, now we know about CTA and stuff. Back then, it's like, that's a bitchin' spot. And then when you go, oh, that leads to brain damage, I don't want to see them do that anymore. But at the time, it's like, yeah, man, he's really smacking the hell out of him with that cool chair spot. But yeah, I don't like how they switch out from the Royal Rumble and just show him get wrecked afterward. I think that the better alternative would have been Undertaker doesn't do that thing afterward, or maybe he just, it's as simple as like he choke slams him and tombstones him and whatever, and then maybe gets eliminated by somebody else later on in the Rumble, like a Mr. Perfect or something. But the moment itself, Maven just drop kicking Undertaker and him flipping around and just being stunned and the crowd popping like crazy, awesome elimination. One of my favorites of all time. I'll switch over and kind of, snake style this a little bit and do another Undertaker related thing for my number 9. And this is it's not a one moment. It's more of many minutes worth of stuff, but it all kind of clumps together to me. Undertaker coming out at number 30 in the 07 Royal Rumble.
Yeah, you're gonna have to put a big pin in that.
Okay, and all the elements that come around it, like rated RKO and all.
Huge.
All right, let me put
Talk
that,
about that later.
as a weight on that one. What do you got for number 9, Rob?
You mentioned it earlier. Matt Stryker marks out and gets muzzled in 2011.
I'm gonna write that down. As Max Stryker never knows.
It's a hilarious moment because in 2010, Jim Ross starts going through some health issues and he's not on the call anymore. And Stryker, King, and Cole never got along. Never, ever, ever. But for context, this is 2011, and being a wrestling fan was still not very accepted on screen in the realm of wrestling. So when Booker T comes out and this guy's going, yes, yes, and he gets ready to do the spin-a-rooney and he's like, please do it, yeah. Like they are absolutely obliterating him for just being so excited. You see this shit all the time now.
Yeah, you got the footage of Mauro Ranallo flipping out, Michael Cole nowadays.
They have like a camera on Cole so he can like mark out whenever John Cena shows up or whatever. And he's like screaming, this is the mark out moment, bro. I'm marking out. It's the funniest thing in the world because if you're a big a fan as I was and you're watching Superstars so you can see, Trent Loretta wrestle or something later on, you'll hear Matt Stryker in the most subdued voice go, again, I apologize if I seem a little overexcited. I'm just a huge fan. So for me, this moment lives on forever because of that. And it's just so funny to think about where we are now, where half of the Royal Rumble is just people going, oh my God, you never know who's going to be here, and jerking themselves off. It's great.
I really liked Matt Stryker in that role. I'm one of those apologists for that because to me, that made it more fun. And, I enjoy watching something like the Royal Rumble better if I'm around other people and we can all be like, oh my God, Diesel just came out. That's fucking cool. Or like, what? Did that person got eliminated? When it's all strict and it's all, buttoned up and you can't talk about it like you're a fan or whatever, it just takes some of the fun out. So I thought that was a really endearing moment. I hated that everybody crapped all over him after that. You never do know. He's right.
Yeah, Matt Stryker's a tool.
I mean, yes, yeah, absolutely 100% a tool, but I'd rather remember Matt Stryker marking out than remember who won that Royal Rumble.
Which one was that?
That's Del Rio.
Fuck that one, yeah.
That's the 40-man awful, that's like they made it worse when they did it to 50 people and they did the Greatest Royal Rumble. None of the moments from that will be on this list, I pretty safely say.
I don't have anything from the Greatest Royal Rumble on my top 10 now.
No, I almost had the Titus O'Neil.
Oh, yeah.
That's in my honorable mentions, yeah.
The whole thing was stupid, but that made it funny.
Yeah, that's in my honorable mentions, but the rest of it, nah. For the life of me, I can't remember who wins 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. That stretch, like in my mind, I'm like, okay, I distinctly remember 2009 and Randy Orton. I distinctly remember 2015 because I was there. And, now we're going to have to call back to that with this year's fucking wrestling. But, hashtag we want Cody. The whole like Del Rio, Sheamus, the Batista win with God, what year was that with not Batista, the Edge win? That was 2010?
2010, yeah.
Yeah. Like I can't remember what years those are. And if you say to me, like, name people who won a Royal Rumble, I'll be able to be like, yeah, Del Rio won one, but I couldn't tell you if it's 2011, 2012, 2013, because it just all blends into me.
There's Edge, Del Rio, Sheamus, Cena, Batista,
and then Roman.
Then from Roman onwards.
Yeah. What's your number 9, Callum?
the start of a bit of a trend in terms of a certain person being brought up over and over and over again. But this is the first instance of it. The start of the 2003 Royal Rumble. So in the build up to the 2003 Rumble, it had, unless anyone else has put that, which I assume they haven't.
Yeah,
no. I actually have nothing from 03.
But I do enjoy this. I know where you're going.
So in the build up towards it, Chris Jericho had wanted to say that he wants to emulate Shawn Michaels because this was in the build up to their stellar match at WrestleMania 19. Probably Shawn Michaels first. Well, he'd had a great return year from 2002 onwards, but I always remember that WrestleMania match being one of my favorites. And in the build-up to that, Chris Jericho said, I want to emulate Shawn Michaels, so he's going to enter the Royal Rumble #1 and go coast to coast and win the whole thing. And so, but Shawn Michaels already said, I've already said that I'm going to be the #1 in the Royal Rumble. They'd already agreed to it. So Jericho then wins a mini battle royal on Raw where he gets to choose any number he wants to. He could choose anything from number 30. It could be number 30 if you wanted to. But because Shawn Michaels is entering #1, Chris Jericho said he's entering in as #2. And so Michaels comes out, big moment. And then Jericho's Titantron hits, and it looks like he's come out, but it's actually Christian dressed as Chris Jericho.
Ty Grisham at that point's like, it's Christian.
Yes. And Jericho charges him from behind, beats the hell out of Shawn Michaels, hits him with a steel chair, busts him open. But the beatdown actually goes on so long that Chris Nowinski is able to make his entrance and come out to ringside
to just do jumping jacks and stuff, right?
yeah, just hang around outside and just watch this happen. And then Jericho just dumps Michaels out of the ring, and then Jericho lasts for a very long time. There's even a moment in the match where he does a Rumble reset by eliminating both Christian and Edge at the same time, and then he's on his own, and then RVD comes out, and then the match restarts again. And then Michaels comes out, all blood over his face, taped up. Referee's trying to pull him back. He dives into the ring. He starts taking out Jericho, causes enough of a distraction that Test is able to eliminate Jericho, and then Michaels dives on the top of him, and then you're on the way to WrestleMania. And that's another great thing about the Rumble that I don't think is done enough, especially in more recent years, utilizing the Rumble to set up feuds for non-title matches.
That used to be a huge thing.
Yeah. And there'll be a couple. There'll be at least one more instance where I talk about that in this build up. But yeah, that was a really just nice way to create a memorable fed for Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels in this match, with Michaels not even really being in the ring, being in the match. He was eliminated after 2 minutes, but then he comes back, and then Jericho has a great run. He's like the Iron Man of the Rumble, and build up to a fantastic match at WrestleMania. So yeah, want to see more of this. I want this to be a template for things going forward.
They really have so many different ways that they can utilize the Royal Rumble to put people over and make at least 10 different stars during the match, because you could do the whole this person gets the most eliminations, this person's the Iron Man or the Iron Woman, this person gets to single-handedly toss out some giant or something, and Jade Cargill taking out Nia Jax. She didn't win the Royal Rumble, but she ended up being in the Final Four, and she did that. It's she looks great at coming out of that. And then you also have feuds that can start. You can break up tag teams. You can do so much for the Royal Rumble, and it's always disappointing when particular years go by and it's the only thing that they had in mind when they booked the whole thing was, how many people can we throw out there for the 3 people we care about to eliminate? And you're like, man. Now, sometimes that works when it's focused around one person. And that's where I get into my number 8. 1997 has a lot of bad things in that Royal Rumble. But one of the things that's very fun is the whole bit with Stone Cold Steve Austin, where he is eliminating people and he just, very quickly takes out a Bart gun and, what was it?
Jake Roberts.
Jesse James and one of
Jake Roberts is in there. Aldo Montoya, I think he might be eliminating him.
One of the Godwins.
So he just takes people out, whatever. And then the moment in particular that I have written down on here, he sits up on the turnbuckle and he just pretends to check his watch. I was like, all right, when's the next person coming out? It's an iconic moment. That screen grab is perfect for that. And people would emulate it over the years. They would do the whole sitting there laying on the ropes, or just sort of, all right, bring out the next guy, bring out the next guy. It works better with Austin than I think even like Diesel, when Diesel was like, come on, whatever. Because that's one thing, but Austin had that swag to him, and
it would have worked out better for Nash if they had realized
what they were doing at the time.
They were creating, yeah, where he probably could have soaked it in a little bit more. But
for that to be called the Diesel spot retroactively, for them to be like, oh shit, we actually did that because we hadn't really done that before. Everybody else had just been like, bring in 3 people, we'll eliminate 1, bring in 4 more, and we eliminate another 2, and whatever. And Diesel was one of the first people to actually just like go on a tear. And the beginning of that 97 Rumble is a mess with the clock not working right and people eliminating themselves for no reason and all. Fake Razor Ramon being in there. So when you get Austin saving it all by making it about him and being such a jerk, I love it.
I've been rewatching a lot of 96, 97 TV lately, and I'll say history is far more kind to that time than the actual product.
I'm sure that is a lot of garbage. Like, just today, Justin Hawk Bradshaw is going to go up against the Brooklyn Brawler or something. And you're like, fuck, I don't need to watch this. But again, at the time, you talk to 10-year-old me, and I'm just kind of like, hell yeah, man, I want everything. I'll get that Justin Hawk Bradshaw action figure. I don't know why I'm harping on Justin Hawk Bradshaw of all things.
Oh, he deserves it. Yeah. But yeah, that moment was on my slightly extended list. When I had like my original 15 written out, that one was on it. Particularly the moment where Austin's sitting there, and then Bret Hart's music hits, and then his hand goes to his head, and he's just like terrified about it because they'd already had their epic match in '96. Obviously, this was to build up to their even more epic match at WrestleMania 13. But yeah, that whole Steve Austin taking all comers, and then Bret Hart comes in. That was a great moment.
That is also on my extended list as well. It's iconic. It's really, and you think about it, knowing where they would go, the fact that he is so petrified of Bret, it feels so out of character for Austin. But at the time, he was just trying to be a heel. He wasn't thinking about, I'm going to be the coolest thing in the world. He just wanted to be a bad guy.
And it works so well that it ends up just being one of those
Jerry
things.
Lawler shit in between too. With he gets in there and he's out immediately because Bret runs him over the rope.
We're going to talk about it.
Oh, good.
Well, Robert Callum, your number 8. Who wants to go?
I'll go. The Three Faces of Foley in 1998.
We're going to put a pin in it.
I thought so.
Probably going to put a pin in mine as well. My number 8 is Edge Returns in 2020.
Yeah, that's just gonna wait a while for that.
I don't have that on my list, actually.
That's a shame.
Yeah, there's too many great moments. Like, sometimes you just gotta make a call.
I found it. I mean, we didn't talk about this beforehand. I found it quite hard actually to find like great Rumble moments.
I'm gonna agree with Callum. I found it really hard to think about like great standout moments when you're tasked to do this.
Oh, I had like easily like 30 something written down, and I wasn't even really like going through the list all that much, because I wrote down things that I thought were like very specific things, like the Titus Trips thing, and like I'll say one that I don't think anybody's gonna have on there. Like, I think that Kai and Ty's elimination from 2000, where they keep showing it, like that's hilarious that they just keep showing it.
I mean, again, it's one of those things in retrospect I don't really like because of Jerry Lawler's commentary and saying that he's going to has to take Tucker to a Chinese hospital when they're Japanese.
Oh, jeez.
But and also they weren't eliminated because they weren't in the Rumble anyway. So that's
they just got their asses kicked.
Yeah, that's true. It's still a Royal Rumble moment, but like, but yeah, like I have tons of moments like that written down. So to me, it was like, Edge Return, for instance, was just one of those like, it doesn't make the cut on a top 10, but it's there for like, if I expanded this into top 25, it probably would be like either number like 11 or 12 or something even. Yeah,
I'd find it hard to 25 unless I started taking moments and matches from just Rumble pay-per-view rather than just.
I asked Tony the same question.
Yeah,
I said, "Are we doing full pay-per-views?" That's funny that Callum and I.
Well, yeah, because I'd originally put them in a more expanded list. Of, okay, Cactus Jack versus Triple H, from 2000, and Angle versus Benoit from 2003, and the triple threat match of Rollins, Lesnar, and Cena from 2015. It's like, yeah, I'm starting to fill this up, and then we're just gonna do the Rumble matches instead. Okay,
that's really funny that we had similar experiences like that because. I did
Rumble has so many great matches on it. Like, obviously, the Rumble itself is a big event, and there's definitely more than enough great moments to fill up a top 10 list. But then when you get into things like the first ever tables match happened at a Royal Rumble, and some just other interesting things that you could probably dig out from Rumble's
Bob
past.
Holly gets the title match.
Yeah, exactly. I know, that's crazy. The absolute one of the two of the worst world title matches of all time in Scott Steiner versus Triple H and Kurt Angle versus Mark Henry, where the Undertaker makes the ring explode.
You know what though? I did think about the Undertaker making the ring explode. That's a really cool entrance. He comes out with the chariot. So like, there's a lot of fun Rumble moments, but yeah.
Hopefully, as we go along here, there might be more that makes you guys go, "Oh fuck yeah, I forgot about that one." That's another.
There probably will be.
Yeah,
it probably will be, at least like from your side of things, because I think that you two are going to go for a few more that are from the 90s. None, just as a spoiler, none of my top moments in Rumble happened like pre-2000.
I'm going to say something that might shock you. I only have one more thing on this list that's from pre-2000.
Wow. I've got
well, I figured you were going to make
four things that are still pre-90.
Well,
2000.
What's your next one? What's your next one then, Tony?
So my number 7 then is It Takes a King.
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is, I'm assuming you guys don't have that on there.
No.
I fucking love when people have like a funny spot that's actually funny. And this was attempted many more times with like the commentary teams over the years. Like, Michael Cole comes in, Booker T comes in, JBL comes in and gets quickly eliminated. Pat McAfee this year, perfect example of it not working. And I didn't find the Pat McAfee one to be hilarious. He comes in, he's surprised that he's in the Royal Rumble. He just stares down Omos and Breaker, gets ready to leave, comes back in, and then eliminates himself. That's not funny to me. But when Jerry Lawler this has got to be one of the first like truly surprising Royal Rumble entrants. A couple in the past, 1980 something or whatever, 1990 something, like it might be like, oh man, wow, in 1990 the fucking Greg the Hammer Valentine's here and we didn't expect him.
No, they weren't doing that in 1990 anything.
It wasn't really a thing as much, and their closest examples to that are like, Bastion Booger doesn't come out for that one Royal Rumble or whatever, but the commentator is going to be in the Royal Rumble, and Lawler's a wrestler, but it was still like, oh, he's going to leave the commentary booth to do that. But the fact that it sells so much better is when he's just, oh, it's the Royal Rumble. It's going to be won by royalty. It takes a king, takes off the headset, gets in there, 2 punches from Bret Hart, flips himself out of there. So it's already funny because it's a quick elimination. At that point, it's like the 3rd or 4th quickest elimination in history. And he just goes and sits right back down and is like, to know a King McMahon. I loved it at the time, and I still, to this day, the idea of that cracks me up. Jerry Lawler's so underrated.
Is he on your list anymore throughout this?
He is not on my list through the rest of this anymore.
Okay, because I just wanted to bring out that this follows the year before when Jake the Snake clears everyone out of the ring with this massive snake, and Lawler just hides under the ring for a good 7 minutes.
Lawler hiding under the ring is on my honorable mentions.
It's funny and it's good because no one ever thinks about these things. But King as a performer, probably underrated at this point.
And that too, Lawler hiding under the ring, that was, I'm pretty sure, the first time that had happened. And then you had multiple times of that over the years, like Zelina Vega did it the one year and Hornswoggle, and it's just not as funny anymore. Lawler does it and it ends up being a big spot about HBK being like, "Hey, Lawler's still under here, right?" And the crowd's all like, "Fucking get him!" And that's so good. That's my number 7.
I'll go next. My number 7 is Paul London. Ouch. In the 2005 Royal Rumble, when he gets clothesline from Gene Snitsky, takes a wonderful face bump off the apron, and they actually bother to get him a stretcher and cart him out there because it was such a believable bump, and it's one of the most gnarly looking eliminations in Royal Rumble history, and a great moment for London, who doesn't really have a lot of them in hindsight.
He was laughing at Vince's explosion thing. Yeah, I actually wrote down the Paul London clothesline as either the second or the third thing when I started to write down my list. And then eventually I just, had too many other things, so I had to bump it off. But that was one of the first things that I thought of for like, all right, this is in contention. Because that's one of my favorite eliminations ever, for sure. And they should do more of that. Like,
no, they shouldn't.
He says he didn't get hurt. Like, he says that was him, like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, I think they should do more eliminations that are more like wild like that. Like, I liked Jordan Grace being eliminated from the KOD on the apron this year.
Oh, that one's fairly safe.
Yeah, but like more like somebody does a move like that rather than just they grab the person's head and they pretend like they're throwing them over when it's like you're not even grabbing their hair, they're bald. What do you mean you have that much of a grip on that person's head that you are taking a grown man or a grown woman and running them across the ring and throwing them over the top, Give me more clotheslines and more like somebody tries to save themselves and they get like a brogue kick on the corner or something, or, the Paul London one's definitely one of the top ones for that. What's your number 7, Callum?
I don't know whether I need to put a pin in this one or not. Maybe I'm the only person to mention it, but John Cena and Batista go over the top rope at the same time.
That is my number 6. So I think we can talk about it now.
It's not on my list.
Yeah. So I just think that it's wild and crazy, this one, because obviously we've had the Bret Hart and Lex Luger one, which I don't know, someone will bring up. They might do something. But
it's going to be
this one. Yeah, but this one was totally, well, at least by everyone that's spoken about it, completely spontaneous and wasn't meant to happen. Batista was just meant to throw John Cena over from the Batista bomb position over the top rope, but something goes wrong. They both go over at the exact same time. They land like hard on the mat, and then it's just a pure improvisation moment where they just like they're running into the ring, and one of them's putting their hand up saying "I won," and the SmackDown referee's holding up Cena's hand, and the Raw referees are holding up Batista's hand, and a very now recently shamed chairman comes down to the ring. It hilariously tears both quadriceps getting into the ring. If only if only that was the end of it for him at that point. But I think that but that was just a really organic, like crazy moment that just came out of nowhere and made. And at the end of the day, it's like two people that were made super big for the next 5, well, in Batista's case, for the next like 5+ years before his then ventures into Hollywood and sporadic returns. But for Cena, it's one of the launching pads for his domination of WWE for the next 10-15+ years. And yeah, I just think that it's a surreal moment that you probably will never see again because of how safely choreographed a lot of the matches are.
So it's my number 6, and like Callum says, what makes it a great moment is that everybody still claims to this day. John Cena just did an interview with Logan Paul, says, "Yeah, that happened because I fucked up." I don't buy it. I still think all of that is too good.
Mm-hmm.
That you're gonna tell me that wasn't planned? If that wasn't planned, then you need to start training people like that again, because everyone involved, from the referees on down, perfectly played their role. Like the wrong guy thinks the wrong guy won, and it's so good. And then it's pounded by Vince just storming to the ring. Here's his quad, tries to get up, tears the other one. Like, you can't you can't script this, and it's such an amazing moment. I still think you would have been fine if you just said they both won because they're both on separate brands.
They both end up going on to the title matches at WrestleMania.
Like
they both end up
winning.
winning.
Made any difference? And it's just a great moment, and it highlights another great Royal Rumble, and kind of what I wish they would do now. A huge focus on the future. I love that moment.
Yeah, I don't have that on the list. In part because I'm not going to spoil too much, but like, yeah, the Brett and Luger thing I have on my list. I think that was done better, but I also like. There's a part of me that is kind of annoyed at the idea that they keep acting like that was a botch, and I'm like, come on, I don't fucking believe that at all. But it's definitely one of those worthy contenders. Like, you know, I would be shocked if that's not on the vast majority of people's top 10 lists. So my number 6 it's a little bit of a cop-out answer. I don't know if this really could count this way, but I found it hard to split things up. It's Kofi Kingston's series of saving himself. And I kind of also lumped in Kacy Catanzaro saving herself in 2019. Now, technically, there is like Naomi and there is Mandy Rose with the whole Otis thing. And there is, you know, like there's been, you know, Kalani Jordan on an episode of NXT saved herself from a battle royal and whatever. But the main ones that stand out to me more than anything else, John Morrison for the first one of them, where he's doing the quote unquote Spider-Man thing. That kind of sets the tone already. And then Kofi just blows it out of the water by doing all sorts of crazy things. Arguably my favorite, and that's why I kind of lumped that in with the Casey thing, is the handstand. Because that's just so goddamn impressive to me. So it's like, which one do I like better? Do I like better that Kofi saves himself by doing a handstand and then puts himself on the steel steps and gets back in? Or do I like Casey doing the handstand and then flipping herself up on the ring post? They're both equally like, holy fuck, I can't get out of bed and not potentially hurt myself, and these people are doing that. I wanted to put that up higher, but then my number 5 to number 1 are just things that I'm just like, crap, it's hard to take a lump sum thing of multiple moments and then justify having that in the top 5. So I handicapped it a little bit by just being like, well, I'm doing a cop-out answer. So that's like, you know, saving yourself from an elimination, one of the best things you could do in a Royal Rumble for like entertainment value for me. And I'm so mad that Kofi Kingston didn't even try this year.
I think it was the right move.
Yeah, I haven't put any of those moments on there. I'm like, I don't know, I think I'm maybe a little bit burned out on the extravagant saves.
So that's my number 6. Rob's number 6 is Cena Batista. What's yours, Callum?
We might be putting a pin on this for a little bit longer, but because it has already been mentioned, the final 10 or so minutes of the Royal Rumble 2007.
I think we're still putting a pin in it.
Okay.
That's going to be one of our 3 first. That's funny. All right, so then Callum, what's your number 5?
Kurt Angle, the 2005 Royal Rumble. It's another one. It's a short and sweet thing. He comes out. He's out there for barely a minute. Comes in. So the whole story of that one is that he wrestled for the WWE Championship earlier in the night, and then he stole Nunzio's number, intimidated Nunzio to give him his number backstage. So he runs out to the ring. He just suplexes the hell out of everybody. Just throws tons of people all over the ring, and then he tries to angle slam Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels gets out of it. Pushes him away, super kicks him, kicks Angle out of the ring in less than a minute. And then afterwards, like a little while later, Angle gets in, eliminates Shawn Michaels, beats the hell out of him with steel steps, forces him to tap out on the steel steps, because we know that if you put a submission move on a table or steps or anything like that, it's much more painful than if you do it anywhere else. And sets in motion what I consider the greatest WrestleMania match of all time.
Hard to argue. And again, another great example of setting shit up at the Royal Rumble for WrestleMania.
Yep. And also, if you're keeping track now, that is the third moment on this list that involves Shawn Michaels.
And the second thing from 05. Yeah.
Yep. There's a couple of rumbles that appear like a couple of times for me. That's because I think they're great rumbles, and 2005 one is one of the best ones. And this was just an awesome, again, making the absolute most of your time in the Rumble. You don't have to I don't want to just crap on examples from this year's Rumble, but you had Andrade in the Rumble for 20 odd minutes. What the fuck did he do?
Right.
Nakamura.
There was a lot of that. There was a lot of just what did they do?
I mean, the Iron Man was Jey Uso. What did he actually do in the 50 minutes he was in the ring? He started it with Jimmy Uso, and then he might as well just not been in it. He might as well been invisible for the next 49 minutes, and then he got eliminated.
Yeah.
So Angle in for less than a minute and sets in motion a fantastic feud, which brought us Sexy Kurt and all this other great stuff,
and a great wrestling match.
Well, a great wrestling match at WrestleMania, and then several other great matches that have followed for the remainder of 2005. These two were feuding for quite a bit going into 2005, 2006. So and it's Kurt Angle's involved, and I always try and put a Kurt Angle moment on a top favorite list if I can.
So your number 5, Rob?
AJ Styles debuts in 2016.
Honorable mention for me.
I think we can put a pin on that.
Fair enough.
Alrighty. Then my number 5 is the record-breaking quickest elimination of all time. Santino Marella and Kane. You guys have that on your list?
No.
It's so funny. It's coming out again. You're very much a moment-driven guy. That's how you're able to remember so much of these.
Oh, totally. Because it's the best elimination in the Royal Rumble history, I think. He runs out and immediately gets clotheslined, and it's 1.9 seconds or something. And he just goes I wasn't ready.
Yeah, him screaming, I wasn't ready. That's what makes it good. Because the bushwhacker thing.
That's on my honorable mentions.
It's hysterical because you hear the stories of these guys and you just think, oh, these fuckers are just taking the piss and just didn't want to do anything. So it's all right, I'll just throw me out and I'll walk right back.
I think that's hilarious that he just walks in and gets tossed out by Earthquake, I think. Yeah, he just hey pal, go this way. Okay. But they've had a couple quick eliminations, and some of them have been oddly not funny, but they just buried the person for some reason. Owen Hart that one year. I'm fucking forgetting which year it was. 95. Yeah.
They didn't bury him. It's that shitty camera work, because the whole thing is Brett gets revenge on Owen, and he's obsessed with getting Owen for costing him the title at Survivor Series, and they don't show Owen getting eliminated by Lex Luger.
Yeah, it's just really poorly done. But when you have the camera set up and you have it perfectly executed the way that they do, for him to come in and go right out like that, I wonder how many times they had to rehearse that.
They didn't.
You don't think they did at all?
That was just them being ridiculous. I highly doubt they were rehearsing these battle royals the way they do now.
Well, a moment like that, I would think that they would, because look at what happened with Titus O'Neil. 2015 comes around, and then they try to do it, and it ends up being a total botch.
You just hit the nail on the head. They try to do it.
Yeah, they rehearsed it, and they fucked it up because they were trying to do it right. This one was just... this one feels spontaneous. Yeah, it's two professionals that have been doing it for years and years at this point. And Morella, who's just a comedy master in ring, is just able to do it effectively just because he's that good. And Kane was just in the right place in the right time, because Kane is,
he was also,
I've been doing this for about 15 years at this point in his career. So I think that there were two professionals said, hey, I've got an idea for a spot, and then we'll just do it.
Yeah.
Don't have to even try it.
Imagine how poor of a spot it is when you just put people that aren't as good in comparison, and then you see what happens. But
you see it all the time. All due respect to the people performing it out, but you see it all the time now.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's oh, you can see what they're trying to go for, but they're not getting it.
Yeah, oh wow, they're standing there waiting for this person, so they're just kind of wobbling back and forth like they're a at the create a character screen or something, you know. But Santino and Kane, they pull it off, and it's never going to be matched or exceeded. I don't think anybody's going to be able to pull off quicker than that. You can always get more eliminations until you eventually get to somebody that eliminates 30 people, but that can be, that's got a limit for that too. And then, Santino, that's like every single Royal Rumble by the records thing is always going to have him on there. Is the longest time in a Royal Rumble has been set on the traditional Royal Rumble by Gunther or whatever. And then, but then the quickest is Santino. And by the time you get done saying Santino, the clip is over. So good. That's my number 5. My number 4, to go back to what we had said before, because I don't think that Callum has it on his list, is the Three Faces of Foley.
Yeah, it's not my list yet.
So Rob had that at number 8.
Yeah.
I, of course, have made no reservations that Mick Foley is one of my favorites of all time. And at the time, I was like, oh, cool. Cactus Jack is fun. And Dude Love is fun. And Mankind is great. And Mick Foley himself, just all of this is all great. And when they started the Royal Rumble, and it's Chainsaw Charlie, and you've got, Foley in there with him and all, and then they pretty quickly eliminate him in the grand scheme. I remember being disappointed and just being like, man, that sucks that he didn't end up doing more in this Royal Rumble. And like, why is Chainsaw Charlie sticking around instead of him being the quick elimination, whatever? And then, of course, later on in the Royal Rumble, he pops up 2 more times. It's so fun. And it's another thing that's like, it's never going to be able to happen again. They're not going to have, they could have done it with Bray Wyatt, but they ended up not doing it. And of course, now, unfortunately, we won't be able to. And there's nobody else that has like multiple personalities or distinctive enough characters for that to be justified.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they have never tried to do it again. Because, through the years, you could, like, Hurricane and Gregory Helms could have probably pulled it off. But Foley, this is one of his standout moments. And the reason it's so low on my list is because it's like the only cool thing in that particular match. And Foley at the time, he's not doing anything great with it, but the feat itself is so impressive. And it's actually funny, you look at it now and you think, that's a guy who, if you fast forward to what the Royal Rumble is now, there would have been so many spotlights on him is this the year that he becomes the guy to go to WrestleMania? And he just knew his role so well. Like, it was never about that. For better or worse, because I do think that some people adopting Mick Foley's mentality has led to crappier moments in wrestling, but Mick Foley understood it's about the moment, and he was there to give you the greatest moment of that match, which is Cactus Jack in first, Mankind in second, who I think ends up eliminating Funk, and then Dude Love at the end to kind of round it out. It's just a fun moment that will always get talked about forever.
So, okay, we got we put a pin on those couple of things. Number 4s for you guys.
I will go first. My number 4 is, yes, I know we're in a moment right now with him. So yeah, he had a problematic, but Ric Flair's entire performance in 1992, and I should put an asterisk, Bobby Heenan's entire performance in 1992 as well. This is the best for a Rumble of all time. It's so much fun to watch. And Flair he's in his element. He's in his zone. He's fighting all of these people who he's got a ton of history with. This is one of those matches that when I first saw it on the Ric Flair Legacy DVD in 2005, didn't hit as well as it hits every year after. The more you learn about wrestling and you're going, my God, he goes right for Kerry Von Erich. My God, he goes right for Greg Valentine. Because it's a match to spotlight Flair. That's all this is. And he delivers. And then Bobby Heenan has the performance of a lifetime right next to Gorilla Monsoon, who is also having the performance of a lifetime because he gets to shut down Heenan. And then when Flair wins, it's like the rare moment in WWE history at the time where the heel is gonna crow about it, and you can't do anything other than go, well, yeah, he did what he said he was gonna do. Shit, I can't say anything. Just a really great performance and a really great match.
Not on my list.
Yeah, not on mine either.
But
yeah,
it's iconic. Yeah, like
I think it's the first great Rumble performance.
Yeah, pretty much. Because like, does anybody talk about anything that happens in fucking the one that Big John Studd wins? No. That sets the tone
funny
for.
Fact here, I did think about putting the same reason I put Yokozuna winning. I did think about putting Ted DiBiase buys number 30, which is that Royal Rumble, because it makes so much sense.
That's just pure logic, yeah.
You know, and we don't get enough of that. But like, for example, I'm sure Tony is about to talk about in 2 seconds Shawn Michaels winning a Royal Rumble. And I would love to put that. Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler too. But the 95 Rumble sucks. This Rumble rules. And Flair has a great performance.
And, you know, I mean, you got the, like, that's not fair to Flair, like you talk about with Heenan, and, you know, it's a skirt.
In my eye.
The tear in my eye promo.
Put that cigarette out. Like, it's the whole thing.
It's a kill. It's a kill. It's a skirt.
Yeah, it's a kill. Thank you, Roddy. Thank you, Roddy. Kicks Flair. It's a skirt, you freak.
A lot of great moments in that Royal Rumble, that's for sure. I hate the ending of it with fucking Sid and Hogan. They should have
flipped it.
Yeah, it's
but
so
at
dumb.
The time, legitimately, like, and again, I've been going back and watching a lot of classic episodes of Superstars. I think they thought that they were going to be able to convince Hogan to turn, because there's stuff leading up to and coming out of that just gets ixnayed. But it's just a great Royal Rumble, and one that it's like a comfort match for me. It's like Shawn and Razor in the ladder match, and then this. Like, it's easy to throw on and just go, that's great.
One thing that's really good about that Rumble, though, is the Final Four. In, like, the sense of who do you have as your Final Four? It's just, man, you make a couple tweaks to that WrestleMania and that Royal Rumble, I think it's so much better off.
I would say that Sid eliminating Hulk Hogan is was on my extended list of best Rumble moments. Just because the crowd pops so big for it, and then Hogan does a hissy fit.
Hashtag we want Sid.
My favorite thing about that is they play the original commentary now, but if you go back and watch TV from that era, the commentary gets edited in to be like, oh, Sid Justice is such a bastard. How could he do that to Hogan? Because they just chickened out of having Hogan do anything interesting.
Number 4, Callum, what you got?
One that I don't know. Again, it might be one that we want to put a pin in at some point. John Cena's return in Madison Square Garden, 2008.
Yeah, put the pin in that.
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay.
Then
what's your number 3?
Me?
I'll go with my one. AJ Styles debuts in 2016.
You have it, Tony?
I don't have it on my list, and you have that at number 5. So,
correct. Let's talk about this. Rules. I can tell.
Except for camera work.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the camera work when we talk about Edge in a little while. But this moment, I remember exactly what I was doing, where I was sitting, who I was talking to. It's one of those moments where you go, I don't know this song. And like the gears are turning in your brain.
And it's different than the way it is now, where you go, I don't know this song because the songs are not memorable.
Right.
Like now it's like, I don't know this song. Oh, it's fucking Gargano? Like what?
And I'm going, oh my God, I don't know this song. I think they got AJ Styles. And then when you hear the crowd pop and just you see him come out, it's just like the coolest thing, because that had never been done before. Of like, holy shit, this guy who, it's laughable now, he's going on his 9th year in the company. But you never thought WWE would take AJ Styles. Like, you just never thought that they would. And he comes in at number 3 in the Rumble. And for the moment, you're thinking, this guy's going to win he could win the championship if they really want to go with him. And it's such a cool moment. AJ's had a great career in WWE. They should have shown the Titantron, because if people would have saw IM, they would have realized immediately it's AJ. Because when that word phenomenal hits, the crowd loses their minds. Great debut. That's how you should debut a talent in the Rumble, should they ever need to again. They did fantastic with Jordan Grace as well. But yeah, great moment.
Easily one of the best. I mean, that I did have that in my honorable mentions because it's just, like you said, I mean, when do you get an opportunity to bring somebody in for the first time in a Royal Rumble, period? When do you get an opportunity to do that with somebody who is that big of a star, as opposed to it being like, hey, for the first time ever, technically, that, Doug Gilbert wrestled a match in 95 or something, where it's like, okay, well, that, nobody's going to pop crazy for that situation. But for Styles to pop up there and for him to actually be on the roster and not just somebody who is, popping in as a little guest spot or something, huge moment. I really wish that they wouldn't have fucked up that camera work.
Yeah, just a surreal moment of seeing Mr. TNA come out and be WWE. I know by this point he'd been out of TNA for a few years and been doing great stuff in Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. So I think that I'd kind of like almost, because I wasn't watching New Japan as rigorously as I do now at that point, and so he'd almost like gone dark a little bit for me because it wasn't in TNA anymore. And to be fair, I wasn't really watching much of TNA at that point anymore because you have things like Dixie Carter being a character and all those issues. So to have Styles come in and that it's supposed to be followed by like Nakamura coming in and that intake of New Japan talent coming in at the same time, like back in the days when WWE could actually sign free agents, which they seemingly can't do anymore. I think that it was it was just a moment of just you never expect to see AJ Styles, the guy that you'd watch for over a decade in TNA, come out and be like a WWE superstar. And then everything that happened afterwards, at least for the first few years, was super great for him.
So that covers Callan's number 3. What's your number 3, Rob?
John Cena returns in 2008.
We can still put a pin in it.
Yeah, I thought
so. My number 3 is the 1994 Royal Rumble finish with Bret Hart and Lex Luger as the co-winners.
The only good thing about that match. Just watched it. It's not great.
Go back and listen to the fan tracks or fan outs table that we did. You'll see that it's got a lot of problems to it, but
it's very mid. It's very strange too when you think about it. It's a great moment, and it's made even better in years past when Luger's just like, nobody but Bret could have done that.
I love how they have those two as the two that, people are like rooting for to win the Royal Rumble. So it makes sense for them to both be in the running to do that. I love that they have something prior to it for both of them to be like that they have to struggle for it. I love even more so than anything the way that they execute the actual finale to it, because they just managed to pull it off so perfectly. And I also love that they don't do the whole thing that they do in 05 of like, well, we have to just restart the match and then Batista wins, and that's, kind of deflates the moment. I like that they do the back and forth, and it ends up just being the co-winners of that, and we'll sort it out, and they'll both get a shot at WrestleMania. And of course, we know how that ends up working. And WrestleMania 10 ends with one of the best endings of WrestleMania, I think, of all time. So
That's I know what you're referring to specifically, but that is a stretch.
I think Brett winning that belt from Yoko and then everybody celebrating and Owen being all pissy about it, I think it's legit one of the best endings of Mania ever.
It's an iconic shot, and it's perfect for that era. I get what you're going for.
I would hope, beyond hope, that WrestleMania 40 continues the trend of, you got WrestleMania 10 ends with that like super happy big celebration, great moment. The right champion is the right champion. WrestleMania 20 ends with
redacted.
It's problematic now, but it was Eddie and Chris Benoit and the big celebration and all. WrestleMania 30 ends with the big celebration of the right champion with Daniel Bryan. Can we get the Cody one? Can we get everybody holding up Cody and doing that?
We'll talk about it more on Friday.
I don't even know if I want to.
Yeah.
Not on your list, I would assume.
No, because it happens pre 2000.
Yeah. All right, so your number twos. Who's got the Undertaker and 07?
That would be me. That would be me. That is one of the best finishes of a Royal Rumble of all time. Again, another one of those moments where I know exactly where I was sitting. I remember the chills that I was feeling. Because, for context, again, like I was saying with the Matt Striker thing, this is 2007. Nobody was talking about the extensive history between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. And oh my God, they had the first Hell in a Cell and Taker incidentally retired him. Nobody's talking about that. It's the first time in 5 years that they're even touching. And it's in the final two of the Royal Rumble, which again, at the time wasn't like this big back and forth mini match. And they have a genius match, which either one of them could have went because again, like Cena Batista, they both end up going anyway, and it was just a matter of who you giving the Rumble to. And you get Taker to win his first Royal Rumble, first guy ever to win from number 30 as well. Michaels probably never looked better up to that point since he'd come back. Taker, this is the start of him actually putting on banger matches consistently. And then if you follow that trend to, they kick off the next year's Royal Rumble in the Garden, and then you follow that with the Rumble the year after, they have another face-to-face meeting where Undertaker tells him sometimes it's hell getting to heaven, and then they have 4 years of shit that has been talked about to death. But this is the start of all of that, and it's so good to go back and watch it. It's a great final two. They have such good chemistry. They're two of the best ever to do it. And again, this wasn't talked about or a thing that they were doing. It's just so good and so fun. I could talk about it all day.
I have it at my number 9. Callum's got it as number 6. It's the 07 Royal Rumble is one of the most well-crafted Royal Rumbles, I think. It's just kind of, it's solid all the way through. And for them to do the number 30 spot and to have it be somebody who's a big dude, and it makes sense for them to win. And it makes sense for him to go on to WrestleMania that year too. It's not like they just did the number 30 spot for the sake of it because they just, like, it's kind of seeming like this year that they just sort of gave Cody the 2 back-to-back things. Fuck it, let's just do it, even if we don't have a plan. Like, no, Undertaker was going to WrestleMania. He was going to win the title then, and it made perfect sense for him to finally win a Royal Rumble and for somebody to finally win a number 30 and to do all that. But yeah, all the stuff that happens after that, he takes out Khali and all, and like they settle it with a really good Final Four. And it could have very easily just been the Final Four and we do the normal thing of quickly eliminating, 1 and then 2 and then, we're done. But HBK and Taker have a great contest back and forth there, and you're not going to be hard pressed to sell me on Edge, Orton, Taker, and HBK in a Final Four, and then my two favorites of all time being at the end of the Royal Rumble. Like, I remember going crazy over that, being like, "Did I fucking book this?" Like, you know, this is crazy.
It's really one of those things too, where it's the strength of the roster. Like that year, there's 0 surprises. They tell you, only last year they do it. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Callum, but they tell you everyone that's going to be in that Royal Rumble. The graphic itself is just all 30 guys because they're just like, look at who we have. It's the most star-studded Royal Rumble of all time, and they deliver.
I mean, they certainly deliver at the end with these two. I don't know if across the entirety of it's the most star-studded Rumble of all time, and you've got
Finley and
Carlito and whoever else, but yeah, this was. I think it's one of, if not the best ending to a Royal Rumble ever. The fact that these two go like an extra, have like a little mini match at the end of it is great. There's a lot of, I mean, adding some other context. This was in San Antonio, so this was like, I believe it was, wasn't it? It was San Antonio, whereas like I think this was Michael's hometown. But
if it was in San Antonio,
Taker's
then
also from Texas. Taker's also from Texas.
Oh yes, but so that added thing. There's only one thing I dislike about this whole thing is the fact that Michaels was in DX gear.
Yeah, that's something I would carry through the entire road to WrestleMania. Like I hate that his entrance that year is DX.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know that this wasn't the way it was supposed to go because of Triple H getting injured and all that stuff, but yeah,
it's way better.
But just go back to being Shawn Michaels at that point, and yeah, I'd say this was just a great little way to end it, and because they've been kept apart their entire time since Michaels' return, because Undertaker had been exclusively on SmackDown, Michaels exclusively on Raw, so this was the first, and this is the time when they actually cared about brand split. And so this is the first real time they came into contact with each other since the Undertaker injured Shawn Michaels and in that casket match, really. So yeah, it all came together perfectly for this one.
And I would even go further to say the follow-up, the decision making, where for 1 year they're treating the ECW championship like it's a legit championship, and you have the 3 perfect champions for Taker to do this with, because it's John, Lashley, and Batista, and they all could pose a threat to Taker. Like again, the strength of that roster was next level at the time.
It's also it was the catalyst for the first time that Undertaker could win the World Championship since 2002.
Yep. So it's all across the board. That's a great stretch of the road to WrestleMania that time. Not like necessarily like all across the board, every episode of Raw is great, but like that
the top
idea.
Of the card was great, and I think as long as that's great, everything follows, and it's so much fun.
Your number 2, Callum?
Shawn Michaels' performance in the 2010 Royal Rumble.
That came very, very, very close to being on my list, because that is another great thing, and it also leads into The Undertaker, and I'm going to let you talk.
I think this is the greatest performance in a Royal Rumble match ever, in terms of just feeling like this match. Obviously, we know the Royal Rumble matters and the person wins it goes to WrestleMania, but this felt like it wasn't just about winning a world title match. This was the guy putting his life almost on the line to win this match, and just everything from the moment he comes into the ring and he's throwing people out left, right, and center. Just immediately that desperation. It ends up with him and Triple H, and then John Cena comes out, and they're all staring off each other. Immediately kicks Triple H out, showing that he's like, he's going to win the Royal Rumble come hell or high water. No friends, no allegiances, no nothing. He's coming out to win it. It kind of like, I say, curtails a little bit in the middle because you have to fill up with other people. But to be fair, this is one of those rare Rumbles where there isn't really a glut of people in the ring at any given time. They kind of separate it out quite a lot. And people come in, there's usually only like 4, 5, 6 people at most at a time in the ring, and then they're just throwing people out. Comes down to the final 4 with Michaels, Cena, Edge, and Batista, and then they're all hitting their finishes on each other. Michaels super kicks Edge back into the ring, and then Batista goes after Michaels, and Michaels just clawing at the ropes, just clawing for it. I think it's just because of the realism of it, because it's just like it's one of the only eliminations where I feel like, not so much like, that wasn't supposed to happen, but you could believe that it wasn't supposed to happen. Because he's just clawing for it, and he takes a hard bump to the ground. He doesn't go to protect himself or anything on the landing. It's not an overly choreographed thing, because it's just Batista attacking Michael's hands, and Michael's losing his grip on the ropes, and it's absolutely perfect. I think Michael, and then he comes back in the ring afterwards. He hits a referee and all this other stuff. It shows the absolute desperation that would be the lead up to that retirement match at WrestleMania, which is obviously now ruined by the fact that they had a match in Saudi Arabia afterwards. But like, we try and forget about about all that happening. And Michael's wrestling bald. But,
I hate that. I gotta tell you though, great moments, great performance. Like you say, it encapsulates the importance of this match and how he was like, I need to win this. And we need more of this. We need more sloppy eliminations like that, where they're just like, they're so exhausted, and Batista's just sort of moving his hands and just happens to catch Michaels where he slips. And the immediate just like, oh, I'm not going to fight The Undertaker. Now what the hell am I going to do? I think what we're learning here is that Shawn Michaels is also making a case for Mr. Royal Rumble.
Yeah, very much.
Because it's so good. And that's the kind of thing that I wish was being taught to NXT superstars. Because when I think of Michaels, this is what I think of. Nobody made the performance of it all matter more. And yeah, what an amazing performance.
I remember being so disappointed. Of course, like, I was happy that Edge returned later on, and that, but like, I remember being so mad that like HBK didn't end up winning that one. So that transitions me into my number 2, Shawn Michaels, 1995. The Royal Rumble sucks. I'm not going to deny that. 95 has like shit people in it. It's super fast, but the two things as far as like Royal Rumble moments and favorite moments and all, if we're talking best Royal Rumbles, yeah, I'm not going to put 95 in there whatsoever. That's on the list of one of the worst Royal Rumbles. But moments, Shawn Michaels wins from number 1. And he also at the same time sets up the super important both feet have to hit the floor rule, to the point that it's, the Shawn Michaels rule. Up until then, it was just like, okay, well, you're out and you're out. And there wasn't anybody even trying to do anything like that. Then it turns into people being able to do things like skinning the cat. It turns into people, which I still always think that it's funny that that's the term that we use for that, but whatever. It turns into the Kofi Kingston stuff, Casey Catanzaro, Naomi, John Morrison, people that have like Kairi Sane this year, like, or, the amount of times that we've had even like the situation with The Rock in 2000, where it was like, okay, technically he might have had his feet hit first, and then that's controversial, and 05 with the Cena stuff. And, it was like a little bit of that with 94, the year prior, where, whose feet touched the floor first, but there wasn't a debate about both feet or anything. It was just who got eliminated, quote unquote. Shawn Michaels ends up pulling off a feat that nobody was able to do prior to that, and just shows how fucking athletic he was and all. And of course, yeah, it's a little bit of a sentimental pick when it comes to just, hey, my favorite won the Royal Rumble. That's really cool.
I think that he was probably supposed to skin the cat, and he just didn't get thrown over in a way that he could pull himself up in that way. But the shot of the 1 foot dangling, is a great image.
And he really he sells it as like, it's like, he's almost, and he's like trying to swing it back up, and eventually gets that, and the crowd's all like, what the fuck's happening, and they have to explain, but both feet didn't hit the floor, and it's like, oh, you douche, because he's a heel at the time. So
that's one of the reasons why it's not on mine. Like if I had a top 20, it would have been on there, but follow through is very strange because the build to that WrestleMania for Shawn is like the most babyface build of all time, where all he does is win the Royal Rumble from the number one position like nobody else ever has before. And then the story is, hey, you accidentally kicked your partner 3 times. He's going to beat you up. Anyway, watch this match with this football player.
Check out these hot chicks that are ringside.
Yeah, so like a lot of that I don't like, but it's definitely iconic. I do wish, especially now that we've seen so many people go the distance, I do wish he had been one to do it in a better match.
Mm-hmm.
But it is one of the most iconic runs.
So we know what Rob's number 1 is. We know what my number 1 is. But Callum's number 1 is a little bit of a mystery. What's yours number 1, Callum?
Brock Lesnar destroys the field in the 2020 Royal Rumble and is eliminated by Drew McIntyre.
I'm very close to being on my list as well.
It was very close to my list too.
Listen, it's a bad time to talk about Brock Lesnar and how great
That's
Brock
why
Lesnar is.
I chose my battles with Flair, but I understand.
And I totally understand that it's not a good time to talk about like the Brock Lesnar being a good guy, because he clearly isn't. But he was a great wrestler and a great performer, and this was it's probably my favorite Rumble of all time. It's the 2020 Royal Rumble, in terms of just the way that it's laid out and structured, with just, okay, we're going to dedicate the first half of this Rumble to Brock Lesnar killing people over and over and over again. You get those great moments of him like calling Keith Lee a big boy coming into the ring and like just throwing him around the place, and involvement with like Kofi Kingston and the New Day getting involved in it, and had Rey Mysterio because they'd recently feuded over the title as well. So you got some little tidbits and moments. You got the MVP returns in this one. And you had Shelton Benjamin be involved in it as well, and
the kind of friendship with Brock, and then it's like, nope, never mind.
yeah. And so that all just kind of builds up. It's like, oh, okay, Lesnar's just you get the feeling that Lesnar's just going to wipe out the whole field. He's the WWE champion and like just going to win the Rumble, and then he'll just choose whoever he's facing in WrestleMania. And then Drew McIntyre comes out. Well, first Ricochet comes out, and Ricochet hangs around for a little bit longer. Which
and
again,
they've got their feud going on, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think this was the kickoff.
This ends up leading to the feud, which was
leads to that awful
match.
No, it had started prior to that, because Ricochet was mad at Lesnar heading into the Rumble.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what had happened, but it was like something on like Raw or something, I think.
Maybe he kicked him in the balls. I know Ricochet ends up kicking him in the balls here.
Yes, yeah, Ricochet ends up, so Ricochet's out at the first round, then McIntyre comes out, and it's just literally like a kick in the balls from Ricochet to Lesnar that staggers him, and then McIntyre Claymore kicks him out of the ring. And then, okay, now you're off to the races to not the most fondly remembered WrestleMania of all time. You could have had to have it in front of nobody, but the fact that you've just established, okay, Lesnar's just been so dominant for so long, and he's been wiping out the entire field, and this guy's coming in and he's going to slay the beast. And I think to me, it's the greatest elimination of all time because of just the impact, the Claymore kick, and the fact that Lesnar just leaps out of the ring, just just goes straight over the top. He's like sitting down next to the announce table. He can't believe what just happened to him. McIntyre's going crazy, and then you build off of that with the Edge return as well, which obviously we'll talk about in a little bit more. But yeah, that this was a great first half of the Rumble, and then they built up with other stuff following on from it. But yeah, I just think that it was such a great starting point for this Rumble. Something very unique, very different, with elements of things. We've had the instance of, we've mentioned before about the Austin stuff in '97, and
the Diesel spot and Kane eliminating everybody, and
but they've never done one for such a sustained amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
involving so many different people coming in and out of the ring as well, and then it having the kind of like the perfect culmination of him just getting straight out eliminated without spoiling too much between these two, because we knew that these two would be fighting each other at WrestleMania, so it doesn't spoil too much because it's literally just one Claymore kick and he's done. So yeah, as I thought, this is a perfect build for their match at WrestleMania 36, which should have, well, if the world had cooperated, which would have been a bigger deal than it was.
So many things would be so different now if everybody would have just fucking stayed inside.
Like even stuff like Undertaker. Like Undertaker would have had a match with AJ.
Mm-hmm. He would have had a real match. We could have gotten something different, maybe with like the Shayna and Becky and Asuka thing. We could have gotten WrestleMania.
We would have gotten Edge and Randy in a 45-minute backstage brawl.
We would have gotten the like the roster would have been normal instead of it being like, hey, let's have Brendan Vink, because he wasn't Duke Hudson at the time, be like, can you save Monday Night Raw? And we probably would have had WrestleMania Hollywood the year it was supposed to be, and maybe The Rock would have been in there, and maybe we wouldn't be in this position. We would have had The Rock and the Roman and Goldberg thing differently, instead of Braun Strowman having a very unique way of being added into there. Never going to let them live that down. Yeah, fantastic 2020 Royal Rumble. It's super fun. And like you said, like we've had many people that have been eliminating people, but they've typically eliminated like 7, and it's been throughout, there's four people in the ring or whatever. Never number 1 throws out number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, or 8. And you're like, oh my God, this guy's going to go up to number 29. And,
Which, by the way, that's one of the few paths that you can still go in Royal Rumble. Guy eliminates all 29 guys.
And at this point, I don't even think I want it to be done, but who knows what happens in 2050, as if I'm going to still be around.
The other path of like no eliminations happening until number 30 comes out.
Yeah, that's another one that I'm surprised they haven't done yet.
That would drive Caroline crazy. Every even if it's like a 6-man tag, she's like, there's too many people in the ring. This is too stimulating. And when the Royal Rumble happens, she's just like, I'm exhausted. I'm like, yeah, I know. The too many people thing. All right, so Rob, tell us why Edge returning is number 1 when he's your favorite of all time.
Well, it's funny that you should say that. Even beyond that, I think the moment itself being so shocking, because with Bryan Danielson, he always said, he's like, well, if they don't fucking clear me, I'm just going to go to Japan and Mexico. I'm going to wrestle, And with Edge, it was so clear, I cannot wrestle. If I take a bump, I will die. They did like years of spots where it was like, oh my God, somebody might touch him. He might be paralyzed on the spot. So when he hits the spear to Elias at SummerSlam, you're like, that was really cool. I'm glad he got to do that in Toronto. And then when you hear, oh, Edge might be in the Rumble, and this is even me at the time just being like, yeah, I won't believe it until I see it. And then it happens. And then like he's got that amazing shot of his face just being like, huh? Because even he can't process that he's here. And then the camera misses his fucking spear because gotta get that crowd shot. Ha ha. Fucking idiot. Like,
there's so many good elements of that, and it's hard not to make that number 1. I didn't, of course, but like it's got to be, in contention.
I know it's a small thing, but like I don't like Adam Copeland with short hair. I just don't.
Me neither. I like long hair at Edge too.
He came back looking like Edge, but with, the scars of time, let's say. Like he looked really good and he was in great shape. And suddenly you're going, because I remember going into that Rumble, it was like, well, Roman's going to win and he's going to beat Bray Wyatt. Because it was still very much big dog Roman. Like that's just what they're going to do with him. And then you get down to the final 3, and Edge is in the final 3, and you're going, they had the opportunity to do the coolest thing ever. And all things considered, I think McIntyre being that one of that 3 to win kind of sucks. But Edge returning when he honestly never should have, and he's had a fun run. I can't say it's been a good run. I haven't loved everything he's done. But it's been a fun run, and he's getting to end his career on his terms. This was a magical moment. And that's what the Royal Rumble is. But Tony, you still got one more magical moment to talk about?
I will. And before I do that, though, I want us, because this is one that we have on all 3 of ours, let's talk about some of our honorable mentions we haven't mentioned yet. I have, like we mentioned, like I had the Paul London clothesline and all. Some other moments that I had in my running for some of my favorite moments. Too Cool dancing in the ring in 2000. And then Rikishi eliminating them. Like, that's just funny to be like, let's stop the action. Let's all do this. And then, fuck you. I'm just going to eliminate you. China showing up in the men's Royal Rumble for the first time. Pretty cool moment. That one as well. A little bit hindered over the years from it being like, and then she pops up in the next one. And then eventually, Beth Phoenix pops up in there. And then Karma pops up. And then Nia. And then
Nia Jax getting in the men's Royal Rumble 2019 and eating everybody's finishers.
See, that I hated outside of that she took all the finishers, because I was like, oh, now you have the women's Royal Rumble. Now it doesn't make any sense to do that. But when that it was just the men's, it was like, cool, Beth is in there and she's taking out Kali, and like, but Karma was like kicking ass. Like she threw Dolph Ziggler like around and all.
And never seen again.
Yeah, that's another one of those I wish, I mentioned of course, like the Kane sets a new record, Diesel spot thing.
Setting a record was on mine because it lasted for so long. Nowadays, you get a fucking record broken every other year.
Yeah.
That record lasted so long.
That was really good. And some of the eliminations in that are really fun, too.
I had Roman breaking the record, too, just because, again, that lasted 13 years. At the time, I was only 21, 22, so it was like, that record lasted the majority of my life.
Yeah, Roman beating the record, Strowman and Lesnar beating the record. They're tied now. The Lesnar eliminating Drew McIntyre thing, yeah. Sentimental pick of HBK eliminating Diesel in 96 to win. I always liked how that goes down with the not only because
smooth elimination.
Yeah, like not only is it because Shawn Michaels wins and I was like rooting for him and all at the time, but the way that like it's those two, the two that had the previous WrestleMania match, those two are, buds. And he's also the biggest dude that's in the match other than Vader, which I don't really love the Vader elimination and all that much, but
I hate the Vader Yoko.
Yeah.
How Shawn Michaels is able to, I hate that.
It should have just been like Vader and Yoko eliminate each other, and that should have been a match at WrestleMania. Like, I don't know why they didn't do that, but the super kick to Diesel to get him over the ropes, I always thought was really cool. The Titus O'Neil thing, Bushwhacker Luke. Is it Luke that goes in and out, or is it Butch? I think it's Luke. R-Truth being confused about the matches a couple times, like bringing out the ladder in that one Royal Rumble. I thought that was fucking hilarious.
The spot from this year's almost made it, because that's the hot tag thing was hysterical.
The hot tag is so good, yeah. But the thing that we have, that one of the only two things that we have all three of us on the list, my number one, 2008 comes around. John Cena is supposed to be out for 6+ months, whatever it is, 9 months, a year, months. And you're going through the list, and the 08 Royal Rumble has some really good stuff to it, but it also has a lot of just like, who gives a shit, and some flat out bad moments. Like I absolutely fucking detest the Hornswoggle elimination from that Royal Rumble, where it's just like, oh, Finlay quote unquote jumped the gun and used a shillelagh, so that means that he's eliminated, and all. It's like, what? And he just tells Hornswoggle to leave. I fucking hate that with a passion. But we're getting into like Batista and Umaga and Triple H and all. And it seems like it's a pretty done deal that Triple H is just going to win this Royal Rumble. And I remember watching this live and everybody in the chat, because I'm like streaming it on a website that everybody's, nobody's paying for it at that time. And everybody's like, fuck, Triple H is going to win this and it's just going to be that or whatever. Number 30 comes around and we've already had our big surprise with Snuka, yada, yada, problematic, and Roddy Piper and all.
And McFoley was in that one too.
Foley's in there. We've got take it or leave it, some good moments with some other people and stuff. And then number 30 hits and it's just Cena's music plays. And there's a split second of 3 different reactions. It's total silence, absolute crazy, like, that can't be Cena. Holy fuck, it is Cena. Of course, eventually they start going like, oh, wait, never mind, he's going to win, boo, whatever. But that was so incredibly shocking. Easily one of the most shocking things I've ever seen when it came to like pure fandom. Like, I did not see that coming and I'm excited and happy, as opposed to I didn't see that coming. What the fuck are they thinking? Like, when Brock Lesnar beats The Undertaker at Mania, and I'm just like, that wasn't a 3. No, that didn't happen. This was like, oh my God, Cena's back? And it was the first time since I had gotten back into wrestling in like 06. I, of course, had missed the boat of like who this John Cena guy is. And I had to like kind of freshen myself up about like what the story was, and okay, so he wins the Royal Rumble in 05 and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And people just hated Cena by this 08 Royal Rumble. And I had gotten a little sick of him too, because even though I had only been watching it for a few years, I was all like, I can kind of see why people think this guy's cheesy, and I'm not really digging it. And yeah, he does pretty much just win everything and it's the same story and I'm bored and whatever. This was the first time that I went, fuck, actually I like Cena. And then I was like, okay, I only want it to be Cena and Orton at Mania. I don't want Triple H to be involved. And, of course it doesn't work out that way, but I absolutely love 08 Cena return.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the building for it. And it's just that general, like, oh my God, this is insane. They said he would be out forever. And I think in the long run, it hurt him a little bit because this was the beginning of, like, getting around to that Super Cena type of stuff. Where I was like, Jesus Christ, you're supposed to be gone for 10 months and you still come back in 3. And I remember, like, just generally at the time, being a 14-year-old who was kind of like, yeah, this guy beats all my favorites. I kind of don't like that. And, of course, subsequent Road to WrestleMania aside, because silly. But the moment itself is fantastic. And it's one of the true, like, holy shit moments in Royal Rumble history, and anything can happen. And it's just a great moment, and it's a great Royal Rumble win for John Cena.
Yeah, I mean, can't really add too much more about the fact that's a complete shock due to the fact that he had been injured only a little while ago and it was a torn pectoral muscle, so everyone just assumed, okay, yeah, you're out for close to a year. Comes back way ahead of schedule. And well, one of the things that I like most about this is obviously just watching it on TV. I think it's really the last time they used that Madison Square Garden entrance where it's not a proper ramp at the side. It's that little corridor down the middle where you can see the whole Titantron and Cena's like interacting with people that are hanging over the guardrail and banister surrounding it, and it's just. Yeah, and it just makes it feel more organic and crazy because he's just surrounded by people as he comes out and then gets in the ring. And you have a pretty cool final 3 with Triple H and Batista and Cena all going after each other. And Cena wins. As Rob says, the less you say about the follow up is the better, because Cena came back way too early for his body, which means they had to speed up him cashing in his Royal Rumble win at No Way Out instead, and then the whole triple threat match at WrestleMania 24, which absolutely sucked and was rightly not the main event of that show.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they had Edge and The Undertaker do a good job instead.
One of my favorite main events of Mania.
Yeah, but yeah, this moment was just absolutely crazy, and probably the last time for a good number of years that John Cena got a positive reaction in a wrestling building.
It is one of the two things we have on all three of our lists. The other one being the Undertaker 07 thing. We've got a couple for the twofers. Edge returns, which like just barely didn't make my list and effectively should have in some ways. The AJ Styles debut, another one that's super close to there. Cena Batista 05, the Three Faces of Foley. So obviously, if we were going to be doing our like debate type of thing, we would be like leaning towards those. But we're not going to be doing that for this episode. So you get a variety of picks this time around for favorites. And, you know, as I said before, if you agree or you disagree, you think we missed out on some things, or you got some other standout moments that you really, really liked that you think we should have been mentioning that we didn't or something, drop them in the comments section below. Tell us what your lists were. And, you know, I think I might revisit this maybe in some kind of way. Maybe I will try to set aside some time to do like a top 10 funny moments, top 10 eliminations, top 10 surprise entrance, whatever it might be. Can't promise it necessarily yet. I don't know what we're going to do necessarily for the Darkcast for this month yet either, but might happen. There's a list of like 20 different topics that I have when it comes to the Darkcast for this month. And we'll see if that comes around. But we know that you guys have been enjoying when we have these more generalized discussions and we do things like our favorite lists of all time and stuff. So we want to try to do a little bit more of that this year. And hopefully you enjoyed us talking about the Royal Rumble while we still can and not 100% going into Elimination Chamber stuff. But we also have another one of those things that you guys tend to like a lot that we have a lot of fun doing. That's Royal Rumble based coming up soon, because the next episode of this podcast, if it's not the Darkcast and of course ignoring the hot tags, the current plan is to do the mock draft of the Elimination Chamber participants for next week. We're not going to do anything Valentine's Day based. It's, I think we've exhausted every idea that we can when it comes to Valentine topics in pro wrestling.
Flowers? What do you
That's the thing that's outside of the podcast. But yeah, we wanted to try to do something Elimination Chamber based. Callum was able to take all the people and sort them all out. So we have our board set up in advance, and we're going to probably truck along there and do that and, kind of shift our focus away from the Royal Rumble into Elimination Chamber. But Royal Rumble's still fresh, and it's always good to talk about fun moments and history of the Royal Rumbles, because it is still one of the most fun things that they have out there. So drop your thoughts in the comments below. As I said, make sure that you are jumping on the Discord. Keep the discussion going there too. Make sure you are checking out whatever that future Darkcast is going to be over on Patreon or the YouTube channel membership, whether it is the Royal Rumble thing or it's something completely different. I don't know. Maybe it ends up being just a random fan outs table, or it ends up being one of those times that it's 1 a.m. and I'm like, hey, Rob, you want to record just something random? Or maybe all the three of us sit down and we've got like a true legit plan of like, I don't know, fucking Belderberry or something. I highly doubt that would be the one. But you can find that stuff all over the place on smarkoutmoment.com. Of course, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at smarkoutmoment. Check out the Fanboys Anonymous content over on fanboysanonymous.com and all the social media accounts that you can see there. And you go to the link tree on amangotree.com and you will find those links to both those two branches of A Mango Tree and anything else that I've got that I felt like putting on there. So follow me at Tony Mango and follow Robin Callum.
Yep. Follow me everywhere at Dude Police. Check out my work on Fightful. Check out Fightful Select as we gear up towards the busiest time in the world of wrestling, including a WrestleMania press conference tomorrow, which Sean Ross Sapp will be at.
Ooh, in advance for tomorrow.
Hopefully we know by the time we're doing the hot tags. My only wish is that we know what the men's matches are for WrestleMania. We probably won't. Yeah, follow me everywhere and check out what Calum has going on.
So you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out the power rankings every single week on smartcanada.com, where I'm ranking the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. Cody was number 1 last week. It's not going to be this week, I don't think. But, it'll be The Rock, yeah. The Rock's taking Cody's place as the number 1 of the power rankings as well. But yeah, find all that stuff. You can also check out the Fantasy League over at www.fantasyleague.com, or find it through Smart Moments navigation. See how our teams are performing, who's picking up points, heading into up next Elimination Chamber, the final rest stop before WrestleMania. So yeah, make sure you're following along because it's heading into the home straight now. So we'll soon to find out who the winner of this season will be.
And of course, any other updates of like trades or whatever, if they happen, we will fill you in on them after they do. That's kind of the can't do that beforehand. But hot tags coming up later on this week. We will talk about a variety of different topics that I already have written down. Muhammad Ali's in the 2K24 game. Dijak might be leaving. For some reason, people are sending death threats to Ava, even though, I get it. Hashtag we want Cody, but you're all fucking nuts if you do
surprise,
that.
Surprise, wrestling fans took it too far.
Yeah. We'll talk about this Scott D'Amore stuff. Camille, I guess, isn't getting signed because why fucking sign people anymore? I hate this company when they do that shit. But
I still think that's very much why would I sign with this company right now?
Maybe. Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about anything else that pops up in the meantime. We will talk about that.
Scott D'Amore.
The press conference stuff. And then, as I said, maybe the Darkcast will be up at some point before that or maybe afterward. I don't know. But also, mock draft coming up next week, most likely. And that's going to do us in for this top rope list. So we want to thank you, of course, for joining us. Thank you for your comments, for your likes, your subscriptions, whatever it might be. And we will see you with whatever the next one is. Adios for now, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment. And we are being counted out.